the death of Moses who wrote about it, and no prophet has risen. The account of Moses' death appears in Deuteronomy chapter 34. But this immediately raises a question. Who wrote about Moses' death? It's obvious that Moses himself could not have written the description of his own passing. So, do we have to assume that some unknown writer, perhaps living centuries after Moses, added these verses? According to Jewish tradition, recorded in the Babylonian Talmud Bava Batra 14b, the answer is clear. It says according to Babylonian Talmud Bava Batra 14b, Joshua wrote his own book and 8 verses in the Torah which describe the death of Moses. This explanation is quite reasonable. Joshua had worked closely with Moses for over 40 years. He served as Moses' assistant, accompanied him partway up Mount Sinai, and helped at the tent of meeting. Joshua knew Moses' thoughts, style, and mission very well. Some have observed that the account of Moses' death has the same writing style of the rest of the book. Given Joshua's close familiarity with Moses, he could have composed the final 8 verses in a style consistent with Moses' writing style. Another common argument is taken from Deuteronomy 34:10. It says, "Since that time no prophet has risen in Israel like Moses." They argue it must have been written centuries later, after sufficient time had passed to allow for such a statement. But is that really necessary? Would 100 or 200 years have to pass before someone could say that no prophet like Moses had arisen? Let's recall what Moses himself wrote in Deuteronomy 18:15. "The Lord your God will raise up for you a prophet like me from among you, from your countrymen. To him you shall listen." Joshua knew this promise. After Moses' death, Joshua waited for such a prophet to appear, and after he had finished his book, which took some decades, it was natural and accurate for him to say, "No prophet like Moses has arisen." Joshua had expected a prophet like Moses to appear, and when none did, he could rightly write that no such prophet had arisen. There's also direct evidence that Joshua wrote within Moses' own scroll. According to Joshua 24:26, "And Joshua wrote these words in the book of the law of God." This statement indicates that Joshua added to the same scroll Moses had written. Like Moses, Joshua referred to himself in the third person when writing about himself. In summary, Joshua wrote about the death of Moses. He knew Moses personally, he wrote in the same style, and he lived close enough to the events to speak truthfully when he said, "No prophet has arisen in Israel like Moses." There is no need to assume anonymous authors writing centuries later. The evidence points directly to Joshua, the faithful assistant and successor of Moses.